want you to put yourself in a really, a highly vulnerable position for just a second. Like imagine you were sitting in a sterile, brightly lit doctor's office.
Oh, man. Yeah. That environment alone is just...
Right. The paper on the exam table is, crinkling underneath you. The fluorescent lights are humming in the background. And the doctor looks up from a clipboard and they say the words that instantly shift the entire gravity in the room.
Yeah, that moment changes everything.
It really does. They tell you your child might have autism or maybe ADHD or a severe developmental delay. And in that fraction of a second, your entire world just tilts on its axis. I mean, a million questions instantly flood your mind about, their future, their schooling, their overall well-being. The overwhelm is just absolute.
It's a moment that violently divides a parent's life into this distinct before and after. And the sad reality is that the after is usually where the system just immediately fails them.
Exactly. Which, brings us to the massive stack of notes, the product architecture documents, and the research papers you sent over for us to dive into today.
Yeah, there was a lot to get through.
It really was.
Yeah.
But when you shared this deep dive into KareSpecial, which is, a platform built as a comprehensive ecosystem for special needs care, the thing that immediately stood out to me wasn't just the software itself. It's the mission behind it.
Right, because it's not just tech for the sake of tech.
Exactly. This isn't just some surface-level review of a shiny new app. We are really exploring how one father's just excruciating journey through a broken, deeply siloed healthcare system is basically serving as a blueprint to revolutionize special needs care for millions of families.
Yeah, and before we can really deconstruct the solution in all these architecture docs, we have to look at the sheer scale and the chaos of the problem.
We really do.
Because the moment parents receive that diagnosis, they aren't handed a map. They are just dropped into a maze.
That's a perfect way to put it.
And to understand the gravity here, you just have to consider the World Health Organization's estimate. They estimate that approximately 1 in 100 children worldwide is on the autism spectrum.
Wow. 1 in 100.
Yeah, and then you add in ADHD, speech delays, learning disabilities, and the numbers just become staggering. I mean, in India alone, millions of families wake up every single day just searching for a lifeline.
And what they find instead is, well, it's just a series of massive hurdles.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, we don't even need to list them off one by one because they all just cascade into each other to form this absolute nightmare scenario. Like, you leave that doctor's office, and what's the very first thing you do? You reach for your phone.
Right. You start Googling everything.
Exactly. You start hunting for information. But the landscape out there is entirely fragmented. You fall down these YouTube rabbit holes. You join like a dozen different Facebook groups.
Oh, the Facebook groups are overwhelming.
Totally. And you're sifting through WhatsApp forwards from, well-meaning relatives. And so much of what you find is entirely contradictory or, even worse, scientifically baseless.
Which naturally creates the next crisis, right? Because you're armed with this incredibly messy, inaccurate information, and now you have to actually figure out who to hire.
Right. Like, where do you even start?
Exactly. Do you need a developmental pediatrician first? Or maybe an occupational therapist? Or a speech-language pathologist? As a parent with zero medical training, you have absolutely no framework to verify if a therapist you find online is actually using evidence-based practices.
Or if they're just, aggressively marketing some pseudoscience.
Exactly. It's terrifying.
It really is. I mean, it's like being handed a 1,000-piece puzzle, but half the pieces are just scattered across the entire internet, and then a third of the pieces actually belong to a totally different puzzle, and you're being forced to put it all together while racing against the ticking clock of your child's critical developmental years.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the architecture of our traditional medical system is really the culprit here.
How so?
Well, modern medicine is designed almost exclusively to treat the condition. It looks at the child, diagnoses the developmental delay, and prescribes a clinical therapy. But it completely abandons the parents in the process.
Oh, yeah.
It forces these exhausted, terrified parents to essentially become full-time, untrained project managers of their child's health care. I mean, they have to handle the logistics, the vetting, the scheduling, and the communication between specialists who, frankly, never talk to each other.
Yeah, and let's not forget the financial reality of being that project manager either.
Right. The costs are astronomical.
Yeah, the documents you shared highlight how these therapies easily add up to thousands of rupees every single month. It's an overwhelming recurring expense for those who can somehow scrape the money together, and it completely prices out countless families.
Families who are just forced to watch their children fall further behind.
Exactly. And through all of this, the vetting, the spending, the scheduling, there is this profound emotional isolation. You are surrounded by therapists and doctors, yet you feel entirely alone. You're constantly carrying the guilt that you aren't doing enough.
And perhaps the most maddening part of this entire cycle is what I call the black box of progress.
The black box of progress. I like that. What do you mean?
Well, a parent might pour all their time and their life savings into therapy for, say, 8 months and still struggle to answer the single most basic question: is my child actually improving?
Oh, right, because how would they even measure that objectively?
Exactly. But here's where it gets really interesting. Because if the system forces parents to act as these isolated project managers, it was really only a matter of time before one of those parents decided to build the ultimate management tool.
Yes. And that's the thing. KareSpecial wasn't brainstormed in some, corporate boardroom by tech executives looking for an unexploited market to monetize.
Not at all.
The blueprint you sent us shows it was born from a father's pure exhaustion. He lived that exact maze. The endless doctors, the late-night research into complex interventions, the chaotic Facebook support groups.
Yeah, but what shifted his perspective was seeing beyond his own family struggle.
Yeah.
In those community groups, he witnessed other families receiving flat-out wrong guidance.
Yeah, just terrible advice being cast off as fact.
Exactly. He saw children getting critical interventions years too late simply because their parents didn't know what early signs to look for. He saw a systemic failure playing out in real time.
Which, of course, sparked the catalyst question for this entire platform.
Yeah.
He asked, why isn't there one place where parents can get everything they need?
Right. A centralized hub.
But, okay, let me actually pause right there and kind of play devil's advocate for a second. Let's push back on this foundational premise. Because looking at this, my immediate thought is that, well, we live in the golden age of apps.
Sure.
I mean, I can open my phone right now and find dozens of health tracking apps. There are massive community support groups on social media. There are telehealth platforms for booking doctors. So aren't these solutions already out there? Why build a massive new platform totally from scratch?
It's a completely fair challenge, really, but it fundamentally ignores what organizational psychologists call the silo effect.
The silo effect.
Yeah. Yes, those micro-solutions exist, but they exist in complete and utter isolation. You have an assessment app over here. You have a booking portal over there. You have a Facebook group for emotional support. And then, a spiral notebook sitting on your kitchen counter where you try to track daily behaviors.
Oh, I see. So none of those systems actually talk to each other.
Not at all. KareSpecial's foundational thesis is that these disjointed tools are vastly less effective in isolation. A developmental diagnosis doesn't happen in a vacuum, right? And neither should the care.
Right. That makes total sense.
When your tracking app doesn't connect to your learning hub, and your learning hub doesn't connect to your verified therapist, the parent is still the one acting as the manual bridge between all these silos. KareSpecial's approach is to essentially collapse those silos into a single cohesive ecosystem.
Okay, well, let's unpack this ecosystem then. Because the product architecture documents you provided break this down into 8 core pillars.
Yeah, and the structure there is really intentional.
It is, because if you look closely at how they are structured, they aren't just, a random list of features. They actually mirror the chronological journey a parent takes. You start with phase 1, discovery and diagnosis.
Right, which covers the early screening tools and finding verified doctors.
Exactly. Then you move into the action and observation phase, which is really the daily grind of progress tracking and at-home speech and development activities.
And from there, a parent naturally transitions into needing deeper knowledge and tools. That's where the platform integrates a vetted learning hub, access to the latest research, and even a marketplace for specialized sensory products.
Yeah. And then wrapping around all of these phases is the final pillar, which is emotional support, delivered through a dedicated, highly curated parent community.
Which is so crucial because you can't do this alone.
You really can't.
Yeah.
But I want to zoom in on that action and observation phase for a second, specifically progress tracking. Because reading through your notes, this feels like the absolute linchpin of the whole operation.
It really is the core of it all.
Yeah. The documents emphasize that tracking is the most neglected area of care. But how does an app actually solve that? I mean, how do parents who, again, are not trained occupational therapists track their child's progress objectively without just, guessing? How does the platform prevent them from inputting biased or flawed data?
What's fascinating here is how the platform completely reframes the parent's role through standardized mechanics. It provides parents with highly structured, clinically backed rubrics.
Okay, so it gives them a framework.
Exactly. Instead of asking a parent something vague like, did your child communicate better today? Which is entirely subjective, right?
Hmm.
The app prompts specific, granular observations.
Like what kind of observation?
Like, did your child maintain eye contact for 3 seconds when their name was called? Or did they use a two-word phrase to request an object?
Oh, wow. So you are taking actual clinical metrics and translating them into daily home observations.
Precisely. And by giving parents these structured tools, KareSpecial is essentially democratizing medical observation.
Democratizing it. I love that.
Yeah, because in the traditional model, a parent is just a passive bystander. You drop your child off at a clinic, you wait in some sterile lobby, and you rely entirely on a 5-minute verbal update from the therapist at the end to know how things are going.
Right. And honestly, the child might be acting completely differently in that clinic anyway, because it's an unfamiliar high-stress environment.
Exactly. The child's performance in a 45-minute clinical session once a week is very often not representative of their actual real-world capabilities.
That makes so much sense.
By democratizing the observation, the parent becomes an empowered, active participant gathering data in the child's natural environment, the kitchen, the playground, the living room. That daily, real-world data is arguably much richer and more accurate than a weekly clinical snapshot.
It totally is. You aren't just waiting for the expert to tell you what's happening anymore. You are actively partnering with them using a robust data set that you gathered naturally at home.
Exactly.
And that seamlessly feeds into the Learning Hub pillar, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because once you start noticing these micro behaviors, you naturally start having questions.
Oh, absolutely. The questions never stop.
Right. But instead of going to Google and finding some unverified blog post about, like, a miracle cure, the platform routes you to evidence-based articles that correspond directly to the developmental stage you are currently tracking. It's this closed-loop system of verified information.
And that closed loop is the antidote to the misinformation maze we discussed earlier. It completely removes the cognitive load from the parent.
Yeah, you don't have to guess anymore.
Right. You don't have to spend 3 hours vetting a therapeutic approach online because the platform's medical advisory board has already done the vetting for you.
But, you know, a static app isn't enough for a dynamic journey like child development. The needs of a child with ADHD or autism change weekly, sometimes daily.
They absolutely do.
Like a tool that works perfectly at age 3 might be completely useless at age 4. So how does this architecture plan to actually keep up with a growing child? Looking at the roadmap documents you sent, they view this current 8-pillar iteration as just the foundation, right?
They do. The horizon for KareSpecial is intensely focused on evolving alongside the families through proactive technology. The technical specs actually outline upcoming integrations for AI-assisted guidance, advanced progress analytics, and even smart monitoring.
It's just wild to think about. To conceptualize this shift, think about the difference between using a static paper map to navigate a city versus plugging your destination into a smart GPS.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right. The traditional healthcare system is basically a paper map. It shows you where the clinic is, and it shows you the general path of therapy, but it doesn't know there's a roadblock ahead. KareSpecial's future state is the smart GPS. It actively reroutes your family's care plan based on real-time developmental traffic.
That's a perfect encapsulation of proactive versus reactionary care. Under the old paper map system, a parent might wait 6 entire months between major clinical evaluations just to find out if a specific behavioral therapy intervention actually worked.
6 months? That's huge.
It's massive. 6 months of a child's life is an absolute eternity in developmental terms. That is a huge window of neuroplasticity that you can never get back if you are utilizing the wrong intervention.
But with advanced analytics running in the background of this daily progress tracking, I mean, the system can actually see the stall happening in real time.
Yes. The analytics engine isn't waiting 6 months. Because the parent is inputting those structured daily observations, the algorithm can detect microtrends.
So it spots the plateaus early.
Exactly. It can identify that progress on a specific speech milestone has plateaued for, say, 3 weeks. The system can then proactively suggest a micro adjustment. It might ping the parent and say, hey, the data shows a plateau in verbal requests. Let's pivot and try this specific evidence-based sensory activity at home this week.
I mean, it saves time, it saves money, but the real victory is that it saves the child from months of ineffective struggle. It gets them back on a path of growth immediately.
That's the real goal.
And the roadmap doesn't stop at just the analytics either. I saw they were planning full parent education programs to turn these project managers into highly skilled advocates. They are pushing for affordable access to expert care through telehealth integrations. It is just an incredibly ambitious blueprint.
Which brings up a really critical point about ambition in healthcare technology. It is very easy to get lost in the mechanics of it all.
What do you mean?
Well, we can talk about AI guidance and predictive algorithms and platform architecture all day long. But if the technology doesn't intimately understand the human reality of a meltdown in a grocery store or the sheer exhaustion of a sleepless night, it's just digital noise.
Yeah, it has to have that human core.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean for the listener who sent us these notes today? Why does this specific platform matter so much? It's because behind every single clinical diagnosis, behind all the sterile acronyms, the complex IEP meetings, the endless therapy bills, is a child. A child with their own dreams, with entirely unique strengths, and with absolutely unlimited potential. And standing right behind that child is a parent who is doing their absolute best every single day, inside a system that currently makes it incredibly hard to succeed.
And the core philosophy of KareSpecial, which is really woven through all these documents, serves as a powerful concluding thought here. Special children do not need less opportunity. They need better support.
They need better support. It's truly that simple. And, for anyone listening who might be stuck in the middle of that exact maze right now, or if you know a family navigating this journey, the documentation notes that you can explore the platform at KareSpecial.com or reach out directly at info@KareSpecial.com.
Yeah, it's a digital bridge built by someone who has walked the exact same path.
It really proves that the most profound innovations often don't come from a laboratory. They come from a place of deep personal necessity.
I absolutely do.
Now, before we wrap up today's deep dive, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. We touched on the platform's future roadmap regarding advanced analytics and research partnerships. I want you to consider the sheer global scale of what that could actually unlock.
Yeah, this raises an incredibly important question about the future of pediatric neuroscience itself.
Exactly, because right now, clinical research into autism and developmental delays often relies on incredibly small, localized sample sizes.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes years to publish findings on what therapeutic interventions work best.
Years and years, yeah.
But if a platform like KareSpecial succeeds in centralizing the daily progress tracking of millions of special needs children, just think about the gravity of that data pool.
You are looking at a massive, anonymized, real-time database of developmental interventions.
Right. Could that continuous stream of real-world data eventually become the key to accelerating clinical research entirely? Could it finally show scientists exactly which therapies work best across entirely different populations, demographics, and neuroprofiles, basically bypassing years of sluggish clinical trials?
It's a mind-blowing possibility.
It really is. I just find it incredibly moving to think that an ecosystem, which was ultimately built to cure one single father's loneliness and frustration, could end up advancing global medical research for generations to come.
It's a beautiful reminder that solving a systemic failure for the individual can sometimes provide the exact blueprint needed to solve it for the world.
So true. So the next time you picture that sterile doctor's office and that terrifying moment when the gravity shifts in the room, just know that the after doesn't have to be a maze you navigate blindly anymore. People are finally building a map. Thank you for taking this deep dive with us.
वीडियोस बनाने हैं फिल्मोरा है ना।